Hello everyone, myself Dr. Suresh, professor in biochemistry, and today's video I'll be discussing about chemistry of proteins and amino acids, right? So along with carbohydrates, lipids, these proteins, okay, including nucleic acids are the biomolecules, okay, which plays major role in formation of cell, at the same time survival of the cell, okay. So like carbohydrates and lipids, proteins also organic molecules in the living system, okay. They occur in every part of the cell and consist 50% cellular dry weight and rest of the 50% lipids and carbohydrates. So the main important part of proteins, okay, they are the fundamental basis of structure and function of cellular life. And the first scientist named 𝐒𝐧𝐫𝐞, okay, who have identified the protein from the milk. So when you heat your milk, okay, there is a thick layer on the top of the milk, okay, which is a protein, milk protein, okay, that is known as casein, right? The carbohydrate which is present in the milk, that is lactose, and the protein which is present in the milk, that is casein. And the term protein, which is derived from a Greek word proteos, that means first place. So among all these biomolecules, carbohydrates, lipids, okay, proteins and nucleic acids, the first place we are supposed to give to proteins. So that's why, that means in the whole cellular life, okay, proteins stands first. So that's why the name proteos, okay. And the other scientist Berzelius, he also suggested the name proteins to a group of organic compounds, okay, which are uttermost important to the life, okay. And one more important point regarding proteins is proteins are the rich sources of nitrogen. So far we have seen carbohydrates, lipids, which are also made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Apart from these organic molecules, we do require nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus. So the main source of nitrogen in our body, okay, that is protein. And you all aware, like carbohydrates we have studied, right? So there are simple carbohydrates are there, complex carbohydrates are there. Similarly, proteins also made up of simple substances, okay. So amino acids. So otherwise you can say amino acids are the building blocks for proteins, okay. Amino acids are the building blocks for proteins. And proteins are the main structural component of cytoskeleton. How? Cell membrane. We have all studied the structure of cell membrane, right? So in cell membrane, along with the lipid bilayer, we do require proteins as like intrinsic proteins, extrinsic proteins, okay. So like this, they do require information of cell membrane. And at the same time, they are all the sole source of nitrogen in the body, okay. And they are also known as biochemical catalysts, proteins. Why? Because so any metabolism has to take place in the body inside the cell, okay, whether it is a glycolysis, whether it is a TCA cycle, or whether it is a beta oxidation, or whether it is a urea cycle, any metabolic pathway, we do require biocatalysts. They are enzymes, okay. All enzymes are protein in nature. That means all enzymes are protein in nature. And remember, not all the proteins are enzymes, okay. This quote you should remember, okay. All enzymes are protein in nature, okay, and not all the proteins are enzymes. Proteins also known as, like immunoglobulins. They may serve as immunoglobulins, okay. The first line of defense in our body, okay, immunoglobulins. And whenever any foreign particle or bacteria or virus attack, our body try to produce antibodies. They are immunoglobulins, IgG, IgA, IgM, okay. So all these belongs to the category proteins. So proteins play major role in immunity, okay, and they fight against the bacterial and viral infections. At the same time, several hormones, okay, such as you can say thyroid hormone you take, and you take insulin, okay, you take oxytocin, vasopressin, okay, and glucagon. So all these are all protein in nature, okay. All these hormones are protein in nature, okay. About you take norepinephrine, epinephrine, okay, all these are also serotonin. So all these hormones are protein in nature. And structural aspects, if you take structural proteins like actin and myosin for muscle movements, okay, they are all known as contractile proteins. Contractile proteins actin and myosin, which require for movement of muscles. Okay. And some of the proteins which are also present in cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus of the cell, and which are acting as a receptors. Okay. And transport proteins, the big transport protein you all aware, hemoglobin. Okay. What it do? It carries oxygen from lungs to the cells. At the same time, the carbon dioxide which is produced in the cell taken out and will be transported to the lungs for the expiration, right? So hemoglobin is also a protein. And apart from hemoglobin, we do have albumins. Albumin is also required to transport insoluble substance in the circulation. So albumin is also a protein which also have a transport function. And storage proteins, like a few of the proteins serves as a storage in function. Okay, especially to say iron. Okay, the mineral iron which will be stored in our body, especially in liver, as ferritin. And few proteins which are constituents of respiratory pigments in electron transport chain, where ATP is produced in our body in mitochondria, right? So there are cytochromes, okay, and hemoglobin in RBC, myoglobin in muscles, okay, and certain conditions, okay. But primarily proteins are concerned for structural aspects, not for energy production. For energy purpose, we do have first priority carbohydrates, second lipids, and third will be the least and last option for energy production, proteins. That means when you break a protein, it will be converted to amino acid, and these amino acids again, after removing the amino group, okay, the carbon skeletal whatever left in the amino acid, okay, after removing the amino group, they serve as in the function of energy production. Okay, and proteins, so what they do? So they also involved in maintaining the osmotic pressures. That means proteins also acts as a buffer. Okay, they maintain the electrolyte and water balance in the body.